Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tesvav of Masechta Pesachim, Daf 15. We continue on our exploration of Tumah and Tara, continue to understand the Mishnah of Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, and specifically today we're going to discuss the next section of the Mishnah, which discusses burning terumah tahor with terumah tamei on Erev Pesach if it's chametz. Machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi. And we are really going to spend much of the daf understanding Rabbi Meir's rationale and what it's based on. So that's really going to be the bulk of today's daf. And at the end we get into the machlokas regarding, can liquid make other things tamei? Is that midoraisa, midorabanan? Here we go. So we are on Daf Yud Daled Amud Beis, about 7 lines from the bottom by the 2 dots. We stopped a little bit high up, not too high. I mean, still towards the end of the page, but for 2 reasons. One was because it was a good stopping point, and the second was because I figured we'd ease in a shtickle to Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim. But all right, it's fine. It's not so difficult. I think that the Tumah and Tara sugyas and Shabbos, in all honesty, I think that those were more difficult because that was like Masechta Kalim stuff. That was hard stuff. This is what it is, it's technical, but I think it's understandable. But then again, we still have another 5 days ahead of us, so we shouldn't draw any conclusions yet. Okay, by the 2 dots, Reb Meir midivreim lamanu v'chulei. So Reb Meir in our Mishnah said that from their words we learn that you're allowed to burn terumah tahora that is chametz with terumah tamei that is chametz on Erev Pesach. Now the question is, when he says midivreim, from their words, who's they? That is the question, the big question of today's daf. So midivreim deman, asks the Gemara, from whose words does Reb Meir say that you can burn terumah tahor with terumah tamei? If you're going to say, well, from the words of Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, midami, but is that similar? Hasum tamei v'tamei achatar v'tamei. Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim was talking about burning kodshim, that's a shlishi, with kodshim, that's a rishon. They're already both tamei. Whereas over here, we're talking about terumah tahora with terumah tamei. So you can't compare tahor and tamei to tamei and tamei. So v'ela midiv Rabbi Akiva. Okay, so maybe where Meir is saying is that from Rabbi Akiva, we learn that. Midami, can you compare it to Rabbi Akiva? Hasam pasul v'tamei achatar v'tamei. Rabbi Akiva is talking about pasul v'tamei, right? He's talking about shemen, oil of terumah that was pasul, joining together with, we said essentially was really an av hatumah, right? This lamp that became tamei from a tamei mace. So there you have pasul and tamei. Again, over here it's terumah tahora with terumah tamei. You can't draw that comparison. So here we go, Chaver. You ready for this? Everyone's got their thinking caps on. Nema kasavar Reb Meir masnisin be'avatuma deoraisa vlada atuma derabbanan. You hear that? So let's say that Reb Meir is assuming that when Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim is talking about this kodshim meat, that's a rishon, mixing together with kodshim meat, right, burning it together with kodshim meat, that's a shlishi. Guess what? They're not both the oraisas. The kodshim meat that is a rishon, that became tamei from an avatuma, well, that is going to be a rishon natuma mida oraisa, because there's no concept of a dirabanan av hatuma, right? An avatuma is only mida oraisa. There's no rabbinic avatumas, and therefore you have an avatuma de oraisa that touched some kodshim meat and made it a rishon natuma mida oraisa. However, the shlishi that we're talking about is meat that is a shlishi mid'Rabbanan. And there's all sorts of ways you can get that. For example, you can have, let's say, as we learned yesterday, that mid'Rabbanan, and as of course we know already from the 8th parak of Masechta Brachos, that mid'Rabbanan, any tumah that touches liquids becomes a rishon tumah, a tchila mid'Rabbanan. Now, also mid'Rabbanan, if that liquid, that's a rishon, touches a vessel, a kli, it becomes a sheni. Now, in general, only an avatuma could be mitame adam v'kelim. A rishon tumah can only be mitame ochlin umashkin. It would be unable to be mitame a kli mid'oraisa. However, we're concerned about ma'ayanos hazav. That we're concerned about if you have the spit or the urine of a zav, that is actually an avatuma and it can be mitame kelim. And therefore, the mid'Rabbanan, even this mashke, which is a rishon mid'Rabbanan, is able to be mitame kelim out of a gezerah that, well, since the spit and the urine of a zav can be mitame kelim, so also this mashke, which is a rishon, can also be rishon mid'Rabbanan, can also be mitame kelim to be a sheni mid'Rabbanan. If that kli, that's a sheni mid'Rabbanan, now touches this kodshim meat, to make it a shlishi, it's going to be a shlishi mid'Rabbanan. So, we want to argue that Reb Meir assumes that Reb Chanina's Kana Kohanim, when he says that we're talking about kodshim meat, that's a rishon, that you're burning together with kodshim meat, that's a shlishi, guess what? That kodshim meat, that's a shlishi, mid'oraisa is tahor. Mid'oraisa, it's completely tahor. It's only tamei mid'Rabbanan. And therefore, that is analogous to chametz, to this terumah tahora on Erev Pesach, that's chametz, that mid'oraisa is also tahor. And this kodshim meat, that's a shlishi, mid'Rabbanan, it's tamei, because it came in contact with this kli, that's tamei mid'Rabbanan, so mid'Rabbanan it's tamei, and guess what? This chametz, this terumah tahora, that's chametz, on Erev Pesach, in the 6th hour, it's also, right, the time when you burn the chametz, it's also chametz, it's also asur mid'Rabbanan. And therefore we want to draw the parallel that just like you're allowed to burn this meat, that's a shlishi letuma mid'Rabbanan, mid'oraisa it's completely tahor, but mid'Rabbanan it's a shlishi letuma, and we're saying you're allowed to burn it together with this meat that's a rishon letuma, mid'oraisa, right? Rishon letuma mid'oraisa. So therefore, also on Erev Pesach, in the 6th hour of the day, when chametz is also mid'Rabbanan, so you can burn terumah tahora, which is chametz and also mid'Rabbanan, together with terumah tamei. Even though mid'oraisa, this terumah tahora is completely pure, but mid'Rabbanan it's also mid'Rabbanan, and therefore you can burn it together with the terumah tamei. Y'all got that, right? Right. Okay. So says the Gemara, 3 lines from the bottom of Yudal Amud Beis, Nema, let's say, Kasavar Reb Meir, that Reb Meir holds Masnisin Ba'avatuma D'Oraisa, that our Mishnah is talking about that. Reb Chanina's Kana Kohanim, when he's talking about kodshim meat, that's a rishon, it's talking about rishon D'Oraisa, right? Because, meaning, Ba'avatuma D'Oraisa, it's talking about an avatuma that's mid'oraisa, that came in contact with kodshim meat and made it into a rishon l'tumah mid'oraisa. Vlada tumah d'Rabbanan, and the vlada tumah that we're talking about, i.e. the sheni l'tumah, was a mid'Rabbanan sheni, and therefore made the meat into a shlishi mid'Rabbanan. The mid'oraisa tahor ma'alya, that mid'oraisa, this shlishi kodshim meat, is completely tahor. Umay midivrei Reb Chanina's Kana Kohanim. And when Reb Meir says that midivrei, that from their words we learn that you can burn the terumah tahor with the terumah tamei on Erev Pesach, it's from Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, who says that you can burn the shlishi l'tumah, which is really mid'oraisa tahor, with the rishon l'tumah. So it's a parallel. Amar Rish Lakish, Mishum bar kapare, masnisin, ba'avatuma d'oraisa, vlada tumah d'oraisa. Okay, well there goes that. So Rish Lakish says in the name of Bar Kapara that no, that's not what it's talking about. Actually, our Mishnah is talking about, Reb Chanina's Kanakwanim is talking about a Rishon D'Oraisa and a Shlishi D'Oraisa. Okay? And therefore, there goes your idea about the Shlishi really being tahor midoraisa, which is parallel to this terumah tahora and Pesach, which you're burning with the terumah tamei, because the terumah tahora is also tahor, ki'ilu, right? So the parallel goes away, because according to Rish Lakish and the name of Bar Kapara, both the Shlishi and the Rishon are tamei midoraisa. Okie dokie. Umay midivrei. So then who's Rav Meir learning from? Midivrei Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yoshua. Rav Meir is learning when he says that you could burn the terumah tahor with the terumah tamei and Erev Pesach. He's learning from the machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, specifically the opinion of Rabbi Yoshua in the machlokas. Hey Rabbi Yoshua, which opinion of Rabbi Yoshua? Ilema ha Rabbi Yoshua. If you say it's the following Rabbi Yoshua, Ditnan. So we learn in a Mishnah in Trumas. Chavis shel truma. You have a barrel filled up with truma. Shenolad la safek tuma. That rumors started circulating that this barrel is maybe tamei. So you have a safek. So this barrel is safek truma tamei, right? Safek tamei. So Rabbi Eliezer Omer. So Rabbi Eliezer says, look, you still have to guard it. And Rashi points out, the pasuk says, es mishmeres trumosai, right? You have to guard my trumas, plural. What are the plural? Whether it's tahor or whether it's safek tamei, still you have to guard it. And therefore, if it was b'makom hatorfa, if it was in a hefker place, well, you better put it away in a safe place because you have to still guard it. Ve'im aisa meguli chasena, if it was opened and revealed, well, you have to close it because you still have to guard this truma, even though there's a safek if it's tamei or not. Whereas Rabbi Yeshua Omer, if it was put away in a guarded in a concealed place, a safe place, so you could make it hefker because you don't have to guard it anymore since it's a safek tuma. And if it was covered, you could reveal it because at this point you don't have to guard it anymore. So here we have this truma, which is safek tamei, safek tahor, which the only thing you can do with it is burn it. And Rabbi Yoshua seems to be saying you don't have to guard it anymore, right? You could be metamei it. It makes no difference. So let's say that based on that, Reb Meir is saying, you see, since you're going to be burning that safek truma anyways, you're allowed to be metamei it. So here also, since you have to burn this chametz anyways, this truma tahora, look, lemaisa, it's chametz, you have to burn it. It's Pesach. Pesach's coming up. So therefore, you'd be allowed to be metamei it as well, like Rabbi Yoshua. Midami, the Gemara says, but you can't compare the two. Hasam grama ba'alma hacha biyadayim. Rabbi Yoshua is not saying over there that you can be metamei this barrel of safek truma, of truma that's safek tamei. He's not saying you can mamish be metamei it. He's not saying that. He's saying if it was covered, you can open it. If it was put away, if it was being put away in a safe place, you could put it into a hefker place. He wasn't saying mamish be metamei it. He's just saying, look, you don't have to guard it anymore. At this point, whatever happens, happens. But he's not saying you can mamish be metamei it. Here, Reb Meir is saying so you can mamish take truma tahora, put it together with truma tamei and be metamei it. Right, burn it together, but be metamei in the process. So Elohar Rabbi Yoshua. Okay, fine. So we can't learn it out from that, Rabbi Yoshua. Let's learn it out from the following opinion of Rabbi Yoshua. Titnan, as we learn in the Mishnah, Chavis shel truma shenishbira begasa elyona. Okay, so if you have a wine press, now the way a wine press works, we've seen this a few times, I think. The way that a wine press works is that you have the upper part and the lower part. You know, the grapes start in the upper part, they get pressed, and the juice falls into the pit that is below. So if you have a chavis of truma, okay, you have truma grapes, and they're in some kind of a barrel on the upper part of the wine press, and it breaks. It breaks. So now this barrel that breaks, it's going to fall, right, the contents, which are truma, are going to fall into the pit that is below the press. Now here's the thing. there's more to the story. In the pit below, there is chulin that is tamei. Okay, so now what do we do? So if we take a look for a second at the chulin that is tamei, you can eat chulin that's tamei. You're allowed to eat chulin that is tamei. There are people, right, there's a concept of being ochel chulin b'tara, whatever it is. But chulin, maker din, chulin, chulin is just regular food. If it is tamei, you can eat it. There's no problem with that. Terumah, however, if it's tamei, it may not be eaten. Now, of course, chulin can be eaten by anybody. Terumah is only able to be eaten by kohanim. Now, if it's tamei, they may not eat it. I think it's like, if you eat terumah tamei, I think you are chayiv karis, maybe. Anyways, so we have a shtickle problem over here. Because we have this barrel that broke. In the barrel is terumah, regular good terumah that a kohen could eat. But it's about to empty out into this pit below that has chulin that's tamei. Now, if this terumah falls into the chulin that's tamei, nobody can eat it. Because the terumah now becomes tamei, so the kohanim can't eat it. And the chulin is now mixed with terumah, so you can't eat nobody can eat the chulin either. So, it's a big mess now. So, both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, so in this case, both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua admit, Shem yachol lahatzil mimena revius b'tayra yatzil. So if you can run inside your house or whatever quickly and grab some tahor vessels to intercept the terumah before it falls into the pit below and become mixed with the chulin that's tamei. So if you can go and chop some kelim, some vessels that are pure, and use that to intercept the terumah so that you can save at least a revius of it, well then yatzil. Well, do that. Go run and grab some pure vessels so you can intercept this terumah before it falls into the pit below and mingles with the chulin that is tamei. Do that. Get the pure vessels. Save whatever terumah you can, and whatever falls into the chulin will be unusable. The imlav. But what if you don't have any pure vessels around? All you have is impure vessels around. So now you have a question. Can you take these impure vessels and quickly put it beneath this broken barrel of terumah? Now, by doing that, you're going to be metame the terumah. Your mamish going to be taking impure vessels, putting it under terumah, and making that terumah tamei. But the upside is that you will prevent it from falling into the pit below, and thereby preserving the chulin, which is tamei, that at least, it's still edible. You're allowed to eat chulin that's tamei. As long as the terumah stays out of it, you can eat the chulin that's tamei. So the question is, can you take this impure vessel, use it to intercept this terumah that's falling out of the barrel before it lands in the pit below and mixes together with the chulin that is tamei? Now, the problem would be that your mamish being metame this terumah. Now the fact of the matter is, it was going to become tamei anyways, because it was about to fall in a pit of chulin that's tamei. So it's going to become tamei anyways. The question is, even though it's going to become tamei anyways, are you still able to be metame it biyadayim before it becomes tamei on its own? So the imlav, if you don't have any pure vessels available, Rabbi Eliezer omer tered v'titame v'al yitamena biyad. Rabbi Eliezer says, just let the terumah fall into the pit below. Yes, we know that it is going to become tamei when it mixes together with the chulin that is tamei, but it doesn't matter. Let the terumah fall on its own into that pit and become tamei on its own. Do not take this impure vessel and put it under the terumah in order to salvage the chulin. Rabbi Yoshua omer af yitamena biyad. Rabbi Yoshua says, no, look, he's being a pragmatist. He's saying, the fact of the matter is that this truma is going to fall into a pit of chulin tmein, and it's going to become tamei. So how about this? Why don't you take a kli, take this impure kli, catch the truma before it falls into the pit of chulin tmein, and yeah, sure, you're being mitame the truma, but the fact of the matter is that it was going to become tamei anyways, and by doing so, you save the chulin, and that's acceptable. So what do we see? So we see that you have this truma, which was going to become tamei anyways, was going to have to be burnt, right? It's going to have to be discarded, and Rabbi Yoshua is saying they could be mitame it biyadayim. So here also you have this on Erev Pesach, you have this terumah tahora, which you're going to have to burn anyways. So Rabbi Meir says, look, you're allowed to burn it together with the terumah tamei, even though it means that you're going to make this terumah tahora tamei. But the fact of the matter is that you have to burn it anyways. So Rabbi Meir says that you're allowed to burn this terumah tahora with the terumah tamei on Erev Pesach, just like Rabbi Yoshua says that you're allowed to catch this terumah tamei with a kli, since it was going to become tamei anyways, and you're going to have to get rid of it. So if that's the case, so the Gemara says, but if that's the case, that Rabbi Meir is learning from Rabbi Yoshua, then why does he say midivreihem, from their words? It should really just be from his words, from Rabbi Yoshua's words. So Hachi Ka'amar, the Gemara says, no, this is what Rabbi Meir means. Rabbi Yoshua lamadnu. That from their words, from their machlokas, from the machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, we learn that you can learn that you can burn truma tahora together with truma tamei, like arguably that would be Rabbi Yoshua's opinion. Dekanami, you can also infer it this way: Dekatani moder Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yoshua shmamina, and you can also infer that this is the correct way to understand Rabbi Meir's opinion when he says midivreihem, because Rabbi Yossi responds to Rabbi Meir and says, no, actually both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua agree that you would have to burn the truma tahora and the truma tamei separately. So we see that from the fact that Rabbi Yossi's response to Rabbi Meir is based on Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. So we see that Rabbi Meir must have been bringing his proof from a machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. V'chein Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Avua, and similarly says Rav Nachman in the name of his teacher Rabba bar Avua, Masnisin ba'avatuma de'oraisa, v'ladatuma de'oraisa, that our Mishnah is talking about an avatuma that's a de'oraisa, a vladatuma that's de'oraisa, umay midivreihem, midivrei Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yoshua. What does it mean that Rabbi Meir is learning it out from their words? He's learning it out from the words of Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Eliezer. Eisve Rava Rav Nachman. So Rava asks a kasha on Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman just said that Rabbi Meir is bringing a proof from Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. So now Rava asks, Amar Rabbi Yossi, says Rabbi Yossi responds to Rabbi Meir, in a nidon doma l'raya, you cannot bring a proof or the case is not similar to its proof, right? Meaning, Rabbi Meir, you're talking about truma tahora being burnt with truma tamei. It's not similar to where you're proving it from. How come? Shekshe'idu rabosenu, because when our rabbis testified, al ma'idu, what did they testify about? Imala kosher shenitma bivlada tuma, shesorfen also imabasa shenitma ba'avatuma, that if they're talking about meat that became, did I say kosher? Imala basar shenitma bivlada tuma, if you have meat that became tamei from a vladatuma, shesorfen also im abasar shnitma ba'avatuma, that you can burn it together with meat that became tamei from an avatuma, zet tamei v'zet tamei. Well, if that's the case, they're both tamei. Both the shlishi basar and the rishon basar are tamei. Imal Hashem and shenifsal betvuyom shmadlikin also b'ner shnitma b'tmei meis. And if you're going to be trying to bring a proof from the oil that became, right, the oil that was tamei, that was pasul, that became tamei from the candle that touched in avatuma. So zeh pasul v'zeh tamei. Well, this one's pasul and that's tamei, right? So meaning it's just like we had said earlier, right at the very beginning of the daf, that Rabbi Yossi is responding to Rabbi Meir, and he's saying, Rabbi Meir, how can you learn it out from either opinion? You know, Rabbi Chanina's Kanakwanim is talking about tamei v'tamei. Rabbi Akiva is talking about pasul v'tamei. And you, Rabbi Meir, are talking about tahor v'tamei. You can't learn it out from either opinion. So we also will admit, says Rabbi Yossi, that if you have truma that became tamei from a vlada tumah, that you can burn it with truma that became tamei from an ava tumah. And here we have a emendation to the text. Afilu atluya imatmeya. How can you even burn truma that is a suffix tahor and suffix tamei with tameya? Certainly not tahor truma, right? Because Shema Yavu Eliyahu v'yitarena. Because when it comes to the suffix truma, maybe Eliyahu Navi will come and say that it's actually tahor. So how can you burn it together with truma tameya? And then continues the brisa. Hapigol v'anoser v'atame. When it comes to pigul, who could tell me what pigul is? Pigul is a korban that you have the wrong intentions when you not necessarily when you slaughter it, but when you do, if I remember correctly, either any one of the 4 avodas, right? That's slaughtering it, catching its blood, bringing its blood to the base of Mikdash, and throwing the blood, not to the base of Mikdash, to the Mizbeach, and throwing its blood on the Mizbeach. It came up in Gemara, Masechta Me'ilah. Actually, the first Masechta that I did with Daf Yomi was over a year ago. I haven't been doing Daf Yomi for that long. Last September was Masechta Me'ilah. Anyways, so I guess I didn't learn it as well as I've learned other Masechtas, but I think that Masechta Me'ilah, they talked a lot about the pigul and the different points at which it could become pigul. But if you have the wrong intentions at a certain point in the korban process, whether it's chutz lizmano or chutz l'mkomo, right? Whether you intend to, do something from the mizbeach outside of the proper time to do it for a korban, outside of its proper time or outside of the proper place to be doing it. So that's what pigul is. Nosar, nosar is meat of a korban that is left over. You didn't eat it on time. You didn't chaparine. Tamei, and meat that is tamei. Beishamai omim ein nisrafin kachas. So it says Beishamai, you're not allowed to burn all of them together. Beisil omim nisrafin kachas. Beisil says that you are in fact allowed to burn all of them together. Okay, that was really, as Rashi points out, that's really just a continuation of that brisa. It was quoted there because the first part of the brisa was quoted there. If you're wondering how can you be burning pigul and nosar together with tamei meat, so Rashi points out that pigul and nosar are actually tamei mid'Rabbanan. Fine, but chevra, we got a little sidetracked there with the pigul and the nosar and the tamei. What is the point? What is Rava's kasha on Rav Nachman? Here's his kasha. Rav Nachman, how can you be saying that Reb Meir's proof is coming from Rabbi Yeshua and Rabbi Eliezer? Because if you look at this brisa, what's Rabbi Yossi saying to Reb Meir? He's saying, Reb Meir, you're talking about truma tahora and truma tameya. That's neither like Reb Chanina, who says that we're talking about b'sar kachim that's tamei with other b'sar kachim that's tamei, so tamei and tamei, or Rabbi Akiva is talking about shem and pasul with this lamp that's tamei, so it's pasul v'tamei. You're talking about tahor v'tamei. You can't compare it. So we have a brisa in which Rabbi Yossi is being pretty clear that Reb Meir's proof is not coming from Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. Instead, it's coming from the Reisha of the Mishnah, either Reb Chanina or Rabbi Akiva. So and if it enters your mind that Reb Meir is basing his opinion on Rabbi Yoshua, so then why is Rabbi Yossi responding to Reb Meir based on the opinion of Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim? Amalei Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman says to Rava, Rabbi Yossi labadaite. So when Rabbi Yossi said that to Rabbi Meir, he didn't realize that Rabbi Meir's proof was coming from Rabbi Yoshua, and that is why he responded with Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, who sav Reb Meir midov Chanina Skana Kohanim. Ka'amalei. He thought at the time that Reb Meir was bringing his proof from Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim. The Amarle, to which Reb Meir then responded to Rabbi Yossi, Ana midov Yoshua ka'amina. I bring my proof from Rabbi Yoshua, from Rabbi Yoshua, from that barrel of truma that split open and was going to fall into the bottom of the pit. The Amarle, to which Rabbi Yossi responds, Vafilu Rabbi Yoshua nami. But wait, Reb Meir, even Rabbi Yoshua would say, Eina hi amida. Even Rabbi Yoshua would say that you would burn the truma tahor separate from the truma tamei. The hamoder Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Yoshua sesoiv zo b'fnei atzma v'zo b'fnei atzma. That both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua would admit that you burn the truma tahor separate from the truma tamei. But the Gemara says ve'amai. Okay, so that was a dialogue between Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Meir. But the Gemara now wants to know ve'amai ena hi amida. Wait, Rabbi Yossi, why isn't Rabbi Meir's argument a good argument? Mida v'midahi. It's a very good argument. We made the argument earlier. It was a good argument. Wasn't it a good argument? It was, right? Rabbi Yoshua said, you have this barrel of truma, and it's going to become tamei when it falls into this pit of chulin. I don't know what I just said. You had a barrel of truma, and it was tahor at the time. It was about to fall into a pit of chulin that is tamei. So it was going to become, puzzle anyways. You're going to have to burn it anyways because it's going to get ruined. So Rabbi Yoshua is saying that you're allowed to take a kli and be metame this truma, by yourself, since it was going to become tamei anyways. And that's just like this truma tahora and Erev Pesach, that you have to burn it anyways, so you can be metame it. So the Gemara says, Shiny hasam tika efsid chulin. So the Gemara answers, no, the cases aren't actually analogous, because by the chulin with the wine press, by the chulin tamei and the truma tahor with the wine press, by being metame the truma before it hits the chulin at the bottom, you're saving the chulin, because by catching all of the truma before it hits the chulin below, you're preserving the chulin. None of the truma is getting mixed into the chulin. So if you eat chulin that's tamei, so you can continue to eat it. It's not mixed together with truma. So by being metame the truma, you're saving the chulin. That's why Rabbi Yeshua says it's allowed. But over here, you're not really saving anything by burning the truma tahor together with the truma tamei. Maskefla Rabbi Yirmiyah masnisa nami ika efsid de'etzim. But Rabbi Yirmiyah says, what do you mean that over here you're not saving anything by burning the truma tahor with the truma tamei? You're saving the extra wood. If you make 2 fires, it's more wood. So Amalei Usava, so a certain elder said to Rabbi Yirmiyah, of course we know that there's a tradition that a certain elder is Eliyahu Hanavi. He said, Lefsid Meruba Chashashu, Lefsid Muad Lo Chashashu. He says, look, we're concerned about big losses, not small losses. A whole barrel of truma falling into a whole pit of chulin is a big loss. A little bit of wood in a little fire is not a big loss. Okay, fine. So that is ultimately Reish Lakish's opinion, right? It all came back to Reish Lakish. His opinion, and Rav Nachman agreed with it, Rav asked the kasha on it, was that Rav Meir's basis for saying that you can burn Truma Tahora together with Truma Tamei and Erev Pesach comes from the machlokas between Rabbi Yoshua and Rabbi Eliezer, specifically Rabbi Yoshua's opinion. Amr Rabbi Asi, Amr Rabbi Yochanan, machlokas b'sheish aval b'sheva devrei hakol sarfin. It says Rabbi Asi in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that the machlokas between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yossi is in the 6th hour, when chametz is asur midirabanan. Aval b'sheva devrei hakol sarfin, but in the 7th hour, everyone admits. Even Rabbi Yossi would say that you could burn the Truma Tahor with the Truma Tamei once it's asur midaraisa. Okay, fine. Now, from the fact that he says that the machlokas is in the 6th hour when the chametz is asur midirabanan, so it sounds already like Reb Chanina's like the first way that we wanted to explain Reb Meir, which is that it's talking about truma, the Bisar Kodshim, the Shlishi in the Mishnah, Reb Chanina's Kanakwanim's meat, the Shlishi Latuma was midirabanan, just like the chametz on Erev Pesach in the 6th hour is midirabanan. Right? So Amalei Reb Zer Reb Asi says Reb Zer to Reb Asi Neima Kasav Reb Yochanan Masnisim Ba'avatuma D'Oraisa V'Laratuma D'Rabanan. So let's say the Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is that Rabbi Chanina's Kanakwanim is talking about the Avatuma D'Oraisa and the Vladatuma D'Rabanan. right? That the Rishon was the Sar Kachim was Rishon L'tumah Midoraisa, and the Shlishi L'tumah was Midorabanan. Umay Midivreim, and therefore, when Rabbi Meir is looking for a basis for his opinion that you can burn Truma Tahora together with Truma Tamei and Erev Pesach when it's also Midorabanan, is Midivrei Rab Chanina Skana Kohanim, is coming from Rab Chanina Skana Kohanim Amar Le in. So Rab Asi said to Rab Zera, yes, that's correct. Itmar Nami was also stated. Amar Rab Yochanan says Rab Yochanan Masnisin Ba'avatuma de Oraisa Vladatuma de Rabbanan. Rab Yochanan says that explicitly, that our mission is talking about an Avatuma Midoraisa of Vladatuma Midorabanan Umay Midivreim Midivrei Rab Chanina Skana Kohanim. It is that Reb Meir is basing his opinion on Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, umachlokas b'sheish aval b'sheva divrei hakol sarfin, and the machlokas between Reb Meir and Reb Yossi is in the 6th hour, but in the 7th hour, even Reb Yossi admits that you can burn Truma Torah together with Truma Tamei once it's also Midah Oraisa. Lema Misayele, so let's say that this supports Reb Yochanan, that Reb Yochanan said that in the 7th hour, that once the chametz is also Midah Oraisa, so then you could burn Truma Torah together with Truma Tamei. As we said at the very top of the Amud, that hapigul v'anoser v'atamei, that when you have pigul and noser and tamei, Beishami omim ein nisrafin kachas. Beishami says you cannot burn them all together, but Beis Hillel omim nisrafin kachas. That Beis Hillel says you could burn them all together. So the proof that we want to make from here is that when you have things that need to be burnt midah oraisa, such as pigul, such as noser, these are things that you have to burn midah oraisa. So even though they're not tamei, you can burn them together with tuma, as it says, a pigul v'anoser v'tamei. Beis Hillel says that you could burn them all together. So that would be a proof for Rabbi Yochanan, who says that when you have Truma Tahora and Truma Tamei, you can burn them together in the 7th hour once they're also Midah Oraisa, once you have to burn them Midah Oraisa. So the Gemara answers, Shiny Hasam, no, it's different by Pigul and Nosar, the Islu Tuma Midah Rabbanan, that Midah Rabbanan, Pigul and Nosar are actually Tamei. So therefore, they're Tamei, and so is Truma, so is the Tuma that they're talking about, right? Pigul and Nosar, Tamei, they're all Tamei. The Tanan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Pigul and Nosar, Metaman Seyodayim, that pigul and noser make your hands tamei. You better watch out. Let's say that this supports Rabbi Yochanan. Apasha ipsha, if you have bread that got all moldy, v'nifsla milechol adam, and therefore people don't eat it, v'akelav yachol ochla, but a dog can eat it. Mitama tumas ochlin b'chabetza, it can be mitame tumas ochlin by a kabetza, meaning it can transfer tumas ochlin. The nisrefes im atmea bepesach, and it can be burnt together with truma tmea on erev Pesach. So here again, we see a situation where you have this bread that is tahor, meaning even if this moldy bread were to have been truma tahora, we said nisrefes im atmea bepesach, you would be able to burn it together with the truma tmea. So we see that once it becomes also midah oraisa, you can even burn things that are tahor with things that are tamei. The Gemara answers shiny hasam to afra ba'almahu. No, it's different in that case because moldy bread is just considered like dirt, and therefore it's not so significant. You wouldn't really bring a proof from there that you can burn truma tahora with truma tamei. Iachi, says the Gemara, if this is so, my modeh. Oh, so Rabbi Yochanan, if Reb Meir is bringing his proof from Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, then why is Reb Yossi responding to Reb Meir and saying that, but even so, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua admit that you would burn the Truma Tahora and the Truma Tamei separately? Meaning, according to Reish Lakish, who says that Reb Meir's proof comes from the machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua, then I understand Rabbi Yossi's response to Rabbi Meir that, yeah, but Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua both admit that you would burn the Truma Torah and the Truma Tamei separately. But if you say like Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Meir's proof is coming from Rabbi Chanina Skana Kohanim, well then why is Rabbi Yossi responding to Rabbi Meir and saying, but both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua admit that you would burn the Truma Torah and the Truma Tamei separately? Who said anything about Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua? So Hachi Kamerle. This is what Rabbi Yossi is saying to Rabbi Meir, I feel to Rabbi Yoshua the Mekil, that even according to Rabbi Yoshua, who's lenient when it comes to that barrel that broke, but that was only really, right, the barrel on the wine press that broke, that was only because he was going to salvage the chulin by doing that. That was below. But ki mekil, when it comes to burning truma tahor with truma tamei and erev Pesach, bitlui v'tmeya, where in that case, since you're not saving anything, you would only be allowed to burn chulin that it's suffik tahor, suffik tamei. You would be able to burn that with tamei. But tahor v'tmeya lo. Rabbi Yeshua would not allow you to burn truma tahor with truma tamei. Ihachi, if that's the case, amai eina hi amida. 1 second. But if, in fact, we are learning Reb Meir, if Reb Meir is basing his opinion on Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, well then, amai eina hi amida, mida of amida hi. Why is Reb Yossi saying that it's not a good proof? It's a pretty good proof. If Reb Meir is learning from Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, and the kodshim that's a shlishi is midir abanon, and chametz in the 6th hour on erev Pesach is also midir abanon. Sounds like a pretty parallel case to me. So Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Rabbi Yirmiyah hacha v'basar shenitme b'mashkin shenitmu machmas sheretz. So here this shlishi is talking about, or really this vlada tumah is talking about meat that really became tamei from liquid that became tamei from a sheretz. So a sheretz is an avatumah, the liquid is a rishon tumah, and then it touched this meat and it made it, I guess it would probably make it a sheni l'tumah, but it's tamei midr abanon. Okay? V'az the Reb Meir, well, this is the machlokas. If this sheni is going to be midor raisa or midor abanon, v'az the Reb Meir l'taimei, Reb Yossi l'taimei, and they are both according to the reasonings. Reb Meir l'taimei damer tumas mashkin l'taimei cherem der abanon. So Reb Meir is according to his reasoning that liquids can only be mitame other things midor abanon, and therefore this meat that touched this liquid that became tamei from a sheretz is only tamei midor abanon in the first place, and therefore it's parallel to the situation of the chametz on Pesach, on erev Pesach, that's also midor abanon. Rabbi Yossi l'taimei damer tumas mashkin l'tamei cherem deoraisa, and Rabbi Yossi is according to his reasoning, who says that liquids are able to be mitame other things midoraisa, and therefore this meat is tamei midoraisa, and that's why he responds to Reb Meir that this isn't a good proof, because Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim is talking about meat that became tamei from liquids that touch the sheretz, which means that it's tamei midoraisa, and yet you're talking about chametz and erev Pesach, which is only tamei midorabanan. The Tanya, as we learn in a brisa, safek mashkin litamei tamei litamei acherim tahor. If you have liquids that you're not sure if they became tamei or not, well then you have to assume that they are tamei, because so it's a suffix tumah deoraisa, because liquid can become tamei midoraisa. However, litamei acherim tahor de Reb Meir. But if you had some liquid and you're not sure if it's tamei or not, and then it then maybe touched some other things, well, those things would be tahor, because liquids are only able to be mitame other things midrabanan anyways, and here you're not sure if it touched these things, so therefore it's a suffix drabanan lehakel, and that's where those other things would be tahor. That's Reb Meir's opinion. So we see that Reb Meir holds that liquids are only able to be mitame other things midrabanan. V'chein ha'y Reb Elazar Omer Kedvar. Reb Elazar was on the same team as Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda Omer says Reb Yehuda lakol tamei. So Rabbi Yehuda says that liquids are able to be mitame other things midoraisa. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon omrim laochlin tmein lechelim tahorin. Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shimon say that Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon say that liquids are mitame foods midoraisa, but vessels midorabanan. Well, there you have it. Daf Tesvav of Masechta Pesachim. So what did we learn today? So we saw the machlokas between Reb Meir and Reb Yossi about burning tahor truma with tamei truma. Reb Meir says you're allowed to burn tahor truma with tamei truma on erev Pesach, and Rabbi Yossi says you may not. The question is, what is Reb Meir, the basis for Reb Meir's opinion that you can burn the tamei terumah with the tahor terumah? So Rish Lakish says that Reb Meir's opinion is based on Rabbi Yoshua, who says that if you have a barrel of terumah and you have wine, and you have on the wine press, and you have chulin that's tamei beneath it, and there's no tahor vessels around to intercept this terumah before it falls into the chulin, so you can take tamei vessels and intercept the terumah. So we see that here we have something that's going to have to be destroyed in the future anyway, so you can be tamei biyadayim. So also Reb Meir would argue that terumah tahora on Erev Pesach, you're going to have to burn it anyways because it's going to be chametz, so you can burn it together with the terumah tamei. Rabbi Yochanan says that Reb Meir is basing himself on Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim, and he's saying that when Reb Chanina Skana Kohanim is talking about meat that's a rishon and meat that's a shlishi, it's talking about midrabanan. The shlishi is midrabanan, therefore it's analogous to the chametz on Erev Pesach, which is also midrabanan in the 6th hour. Fine. And at the end we got into the machlokas about, can liquids make other things tamei? Rabbi Meir says only midrabanan. Rabbi Yehuda says midoraisa. Rabbi Yossi says it depends. It can make food tamei midoraisa, but vessels only midrabanan. That was daf 15. I hope you enjoyed it very, very much.